Hey everyone, welcome back to Open. Our next guest is the true Latina Madrina. She's an award winning technology leader, speaker, author, and career coach with 2 decades of experience in big networks such as Microsoft, Salesforce, and local tech startups operations, as well as being the CEO of Mariposa Blanca. In her latest book, Latina Madrina, Stories, Lessons, and Hard Truths from a Brown Latina in Tech, she inspires Latinas, BIPOC, and other marginalized leaders to navigate the challenging world of the technology industry, with topics focusing on generational trauma, microaggressions, financial and technical literacy, and more. And here to share more, we welcome TEDx speaker, technology leader, career coach, and author, Julissa S. Germosén.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so great to be here with you, Rhina, on my first TV interview. So just thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you, especially.
Thank you.
Yes,
That excites me.
Of course.
That excites me to know that I'm the first of many.
Yes.
We love that. We love hearing that. And what I didn't mention is that you are the café con leche of technology.
Café con leche, exactly. Dominicana. And really, it's a pleasure to even be here in the Bronx because 40% of all Dominicans in New York City live right here in the Bronx. So I'm happy to represent the Café con Leche multiracial Dominicanas in the tech industry. So representation is so important.
It
so,
is, and as you know, that's been the topic of discussion throughout this episode.
Yes.
With that it said, let's talk a little bit about this industry because I would like to know first and foremost, like, what led you into this industry?
Yes. So it's interestingly enough, I was a pre-law major at Rutgers University. I did not think about joining business or tech at the time. But it was sort of like, I believe it was like a God-given destiny. I saw a Microsoft 95 commercial when I was working in one of my first jobs, selling Ricoh copiers back in the 90s when I graduated from college. And I knew there was something happening in the tech industry. I knew that there was a shift that was occurring and I didn't understand it. I didn't know anything about it, but I said, that's where I'm gonna be. I want to join that industry. So that's where it all started.
So, right, back in the 90s. Now, can you define what that technology like encompasses, right? Just so our audience understands what that actually entails.
So the technology industry is it's wide range. I mean, we are consumers and many times creators of tech. I mean, look at your phone, right? We're digital creators. So if you think about, all of social media, all of the platforms that we use. We were talking about Zoom earlier and conferences calls on Zoom and Teams and all of that. There's so many also Latinos that are creating tech, creating software, creating platform as a service. So tech is all around us. Frankly, every company is a tech company. We're in a studio using technology. Right. So it's wide range and encompassing.
Right. And I like that you really broke it down in I want to say in its broader view,
so
because like, since you've chosen this as your field, and not only have you chosen it as your field, you're actually opening doors for others, right?
Yes.
Because you mentioned Rutgers, and we also did mention that you actually established the first Latina Leadership Potential Award scholarship at Rutgers University. How many years ago?
It will be 20 years in 2025. I get really what's the word? I don't even know. Not emotional, but it's just so gratifying to know that I am a part of helping other Latinas achieve their educational goals. I started that scholarship because when I was a junior at Rutgers, I was struggling financially. I had to pay my way through school. My parents helped, but it fell on me. As you know, right? First gen immigrants, like, we just got to make it happen, right?
You take responsibility for your own choices.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's different than the next generation that comes after us.
Yes, exactly. And so because of that, I promised myself that if I were ever in a position to help someone that looked like me, I would, and that I would create a scholarship. And then about, I don't know, maybe 10 years later, 11 years later, I worked for Microsoft, and I was able to create the first scholarship for a Latina at Rutgers University, which, we're always part of the first, right?
Yeah.
But not the last. Not
I
the
know.
last.
And but the beauty is that this has been in existence for
20
almost
years.
2 decades,
Yeah.
right? Like going next year, it'll be 2 decades. So it is the first, but it's been consistent. So that's the
Yes.
beauty in that. So you've obviously impacted a lot of lives since you chose to even offer that, right? I like using.
Can I
the word
share
sankofa.
a little bit about the lives that have been impacted? Some of these young women who got the scholarship as college students are PhDs and college professors, Columbia Law School graduates, and are attorneys, states superintendents for educational systems. So these women have done incredible things in their own lives, and I just get to be a very small part of their journey, which is amazing.
I know it's
I know.
amazing just listening to it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's at the end of the day, it's energy. At the end of the day, it's
I
a
agree.
movement of contribution.
Yes.
And community, which is
Yes.
another topic of discussion today.
Yes.
How important it is to be rooted in your community, and that looks
Agreed.
different for everyone.
Yes.
And you created a community within Rutgers without maybe you even realizing it, but
Agree.
the impact that you've had on these lives is to help them excel and move
Yes.
forward and not be burdened by financial constraints, which leads us to this lovely book.
Yes.
This
Thank
book
you.
that has everything related to everything we've just discussed.
Thank you.
Let's talk about Latina Madrina.
So, I've had a long career in tech, and I wrote this book because oftentimes I felt very alone in my career. Even though I did well in my career, I didn't really have anybody that looked like me to guide me. I felt like I wanted a madrina. And, for those who are not, Latino and not come from this community, a madrina is a godmother. A madrina is, someone who appointed by your parents that guides you. But also tells you the hard truth, right? Like guides you, but they're not going to sugarcoat things.
Right,
and so,
like your parents would.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know, depending on
the
parent.
So I wanted to share some of the things that I've learned throughout my career, and so that others who come after me don't feel so alone and also so surprised. I felt like so many times I was surprised by things, and like dealing with people in tech, dealing with people that didn't look like me. And I'm like, no, let's make sure we talk about this hard truth so that others are not surprised and they have the tools to move forward.
And in just a quick review of your book, because it hasn't fully been released yet, right?
September 15th,
Woo,
Hispanic
looking forward
Heritage
to
Month.
that.
Yes. It's
Hispanic
on pre-order
Heritage.
now, but
Yeah.
September 15th.
So the fact that you have a part 1, part 2, and part 3,
Yes.
which is the foundational you, and then part 2 is dinero, which we all need to have those conversations.
Let's talk about it.
And then part 3, the practicals and power plays. However, the foundational, I would like to briefly tap into each section as succinct as possible. I know I keep
Absolutely.
using that word, but it's just like I want to make sure that our viewers get a taste of how important it is to even choose your books wisely, because this book is like it appears to be more of like a reference guide.
Yes. So it's not a memoir, although I share some stories, but part 1 is really about the foundational you. Let's look at our Latinidad, and let's look at some of the things that we have been taught that benefit us, but other things that may not. And so what do we decide to keep and to let go of, right? It's sort of like I call it a cultural cafecito with yourself. Like, let's have a moment with yourself to really identify some of the things that we've learned growing up in a Latin American household that may not serve us. For example, work hard, keep your head down, and be humble.
Right.
That does not serve us well in a corporate environment and in the tech industry.
And
right?
in the 21st century.
And in the 21st century. However, there's some things that do serve us.
Right.
Networking.
Right.
People skills, reading the room and meeting the needs, right? So some of those things. So that's the foundational you. And there's also
right. And so I just wanted to add on to the foundation before we move on to part 2, is really at the end of the day, it's knowing how to choose for yourself, because we each have the opportunity, we all have the ability, even just as human beings, to choose what serves us and to choose what doesn't.
Yes. And
it's different for everyone.
It is so
it's a
different.
Subjective like choice, right?
Yes, and we have the freedom
Right.
to choose. We don't have to, while also honoring our heritage and our background and our ancestry, right? So we can do both. We can live in both worlds and honor the future as well as the past.
Right. Now, let's talk about part 2, dinero. And you and I could stay here talking about this one, but I don't want to run out of time before we get to part 3. However, I think dinero, which means money, mi gente, is such an important language that for whatever reason, we are not raised to feel comfortable talking about.
Yes. So out of the 11 chapters, 4 are about money. And I specifically wrote about money because we as a community are uncomfortable talking about money. For some reason, we've been taught that, you know, talking about money for anyone in our culture, it's unfeminine, it's you're greedy, all of these sort of limiting beliefs about money. So I specifically wrote a chapter and I wrote my money journey so that others feel more comfortable addressing this topic. And also, you know, quite frankly, that money is, like you said, energy. It's a tool. It's something we need to live. So let's have these honest conversations about wealth creation. Latinos love their families. We do. We are family oriented. So money is a huge topic. So how do we become comfortable talking about it with our parents, with our children, with our grandparents, so that we can all raise up economically?
Wonderful. And we thank you for bringing it here and sharing it with our viewers.
Thank
I
you
know,
so
I wish
much.
we had more time because, girl, we could talk.
We really can.
We could talk. And I think they can benefit from this. And then, of course, whatever else they want to learn further, they're going to have to get the book.
Yes.
Once again,
sure.
Julissa.
Thank you so much.
Julissa.
Such a pleasure.
Germosén, perdón. Julissa S. Germosén. Once again, we were talking Latina Madrina stories, lessons, and hard truths from a brown Latina in tech. And it's now, well, it's going to be available in all bookstores September 15th in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yes.
And once again, for more information, you can visit latinamadrina.com. All right, stay tuned. There's more open after the break.